Camilla never saw it coming. One line in an official report, nil payable, and her sister was gone from the royal payroll. Prince William had pulled the plug, cutting Camilla's family out of royal estates forever. Behind palace doors, she exploded. But this wasn't personal. It was power, reclaimed. The sudden block. A quiet bombshell dropped inside royal circles when Prince William made a decisive move, cutting Annabel Elliot, sister to Queen Camilla, from the Duchy of Cornwall's payroll. For nearly 2 decades, she had worked as lead designer for the duchy's properties, a role first secured through Prince Charles back in 2005. But this year's annual report listed a cold, unmistakable update. £0, payable to Mrs. Elliot. This wasn't just a staffing change. It was a message. William, now in full control of the duchy's vast estates, has made it clear. Personal ties will no longer dictate who holds influence. The removal of Camilla's sister from the official books signals a deeper shift. The new Prince of Wales drawing a line through legacy appointments, once linked to Camilla's side of the family. Inside palace walls, Camilla's reaction was described as immediate and visceral. While she's known for keeping calm under pressure, insiders say she was stunned, furious, and felt blindsided. Some even described it as a scream of frustration behind closed doors. What had been quietly tolerated for years, extended family roles within royal estates, was now under sharp public scrutiny. Camilla's family and their royal access. For years, Camilla's family enjoyed a quiet, unquestioned place within the royal household. Not in the spotlight, but just close enough to the corridors of power to matter. While the media rarely focused on it, the Queen Consort's relatives held access to royal resources, private residences, and behind-the-scenes influence that extended far beyond what the public ever saw. At the heart of it all was her sister, Annabel Elliot. Annabel wasn't just Camilla's companion. She was a trusted interior designer, personally selected by Prince Charles, now King Charles III, to oversee decorative and restoration work across the Duchy of Cornwall, Wales, and the Isles of Scilly. She held this privileged position for nearly 2 decades, working on everything from grand estate halls to intimate royal retreats. Her role wasn't symbolic. She was on the payroll, receiving official compensation, and her presence signified more than just a designer's eye. It reflected Camilla's growing influence within the royal institution. But the shift began quietly. Once Prince William inherited control over the Duchy of Cornwall following his father's accession to the throne, he began reviewing the structure and personnel attached to its vast estate operations. It didn't take long before Annabel's name was noticeably absent from the Duchy's 2023-24 official financial report. Listed where her compensation once appeared were just 2 words: £0 payable. That was no accident. This wasn't a casual oversight or administrative error. It was a deliberate decision, a clear indication that William would not be rehiring Camilla's sister or maintaining that part of the royal structure. The quiet privileges that once came through personal proximity were now under review. And for Camilla's family, that meant the end of an era. It's important to note, this wasn't just about one job being removed. It signaled something far bigger, a strategic rollback of extended family influence that had grown unchecked under Charles's more traditional personal approach. William, on the other hand, is building a monarchy rooted in modern optics, leaner management, and reduced favoritism. Insiders say that Camilla understood the deeper message immediately. Behind the clipped language of a financial report was a brutal truth. Her family's quiet access to royal power was being dismantled piece by piece. The unspoken favor, the inherited trust, the assumption of inclusion. All of it was now in question. The door that once opened freely for her circle was slowly, unmistakably closing. And with that closure comes something far more personal: the erosion of status. Not in public speeches or televised events, but in the private spaces where real royal power resides. The estates, the finances, the staff appointments. Camilla is watching her family's entire footprint shrink inside the palace walls. What was once considered safe ground is now a slippery slope. The Queen Consort isn't just witnessing her sister lose a formal title. She's watching an entire era of silent privilege and personal influence fade with it. And Prince William? He's not looking back. The estate power shift. With Prince William now holding full authority over the Duchy of Cornwall, the internal landscape of the royal estates is shifting fast. This is no ceremonial title. It comes with more than £1 billion in land and property. And in the last year alone, it earned William over £30 million. And he's wasting no time using that power. Removing Annabel Elliott wasn't just a one-off, it was a strategic reset, the start of William streamlining the duchy's operations, cutting away ties that were once allowed to remain out of tradition, not necessity. That includes family alliances formed during Prince Charles's decades in charge, especially those connected to Camilla. This shift is about more than budget lines. It's about control, vision, and who gets access to the future of the monarchy's wealth and influence. Across the estates, staff have begun to feel the change. Courtiers who once operated under older loyalties are being quietly moved aside. William is restructuring not only the leadership of the estate, he's also redrawing the lines of influence. Camilla now faces the stark truth: her family's grip on royal estate power has been severed. The moment Camilla realizes the damage. It happened quietly. No press conference, no announcement. Just a single line in an official document. Nil pounds payable to Mrs. Elliott. That's when it sank in. Sources close to the palace describe Camilla's reaction as sharp and immediate. She saw the report. She saw her sister's name erased from the duchy's books. And in that moment, what had once been private favor was now public rejection. Behind closed doors, aides say Camilla was fuming, overwhelmed by what felt like a calculated humiliation. Some say there was shouting. Others call it a scream. But everyone agrees this wasn't just a staffing change. This was a message. Palace aides scrambled. Was there a path to reverse it? Could they negotiate a soft return? But William's camp stood firm. Officially, the decision wasn't personal. Unofficially, it was a clear line in the sand. To Camilla, this wasn't about her sister losing a job. It was about losing ground, influence, status, and her place in a royal structure where William now calls the shots. She wasn't just watching a door close. She was being shown exactly where the power now lives. Reactions inside the royal household. The palace may operate in hushed tones, but inside its walls, William's decision echoed like thunder. Staff members at the Duchy of Cornwall, from senior advisors to long-standing estate workers, immediately sensed the shift. They knew what this meant. "It's William's era now," one insider whispered. The quiet murmur among staff grew louder. "Legacy hires are over. This is the new regime." The reaction wasn't uniform. For some, there was quiet approval. Annabel Elliott's role, while respected, had long symbolized the informal privileges extended to Camilla's side of the family. Perks that came with connections, not merit alone. Others, especially those close to Camilla, were stunned. They saw it not just as a practical change, but as a direct strike at the queen consort's inner circle. Camilla's allies inside the palace grew uneasy. Who would be next? Would other long-standing relationships tied to her past also be reassessed, or worse, eliminated? Some tried to initiate internal discussions, floating the idea of compromise. Perhaps Annabelle could return in a consultant role or be recognized ceremonially. But those conversations didn't go far. William's team was clear. This decision stood, and it wasn't up for negotiation. Camilla, once protected by the Queen's influence and Prince Charles's loyalty, now found herself on the outside of a decision she couldn't control. She wasn't just upset about the dismissal. She was alarmed by how quickly it happened and how firmly it was enforced. It signaled something deeper. The old lines of power were fading. One senior courtier noted that this moment marked a major cultural pivot inside the firm. For decades, the monarchy operated on a system of silent favors and inherited trust. If you were in the royal fold, especially by marriage, you could expect roles, patronages, and projects. But William was now writing a different script, one that rewarded strategy over sentiment, structure over relationships. This left Camilla in an unfamiliar position, reactive, cornered, and watching loyalties shift without her influence. And even worse, she knew this was only the beginning. If Annabelle could be removed from such a long-standing role with no warning, it meant that nothing was off the table. As the days passed, the tension in palace corridors didn't fade. It deepened. Staffers walked on eggshells, unsure which allegiances might quietly fall next. Camilla's once stable position now felt fragile, her family circle exposed and vulnerable. And while she might wear the crown beside King Charles III, this moment proved something undeniable. It's Prince William who's tightening his grip on the monarchy's future. But while the palace doors stayed shut, the outside world was waking up. And the media? They were ready to pounce. Public and media fallout. The headlines landed like a lightning bolt. Prince William removes Queen Camilla's sister from royal payroll. It wasn't just a line in a report anymore. It was front-page news. And suddenly, a quiet decision made deep within the palace was fueling a firestorm across the media. The British tabloids leapt on the story first. They framed it as a clash between two royal worlds, the modernizing vision of Prince William versus the entrenched comforts of Camilla's family ties. The narrative quickly grew legs. William wasn't just trimming the duchy, he was cutting Camilla's influence down to size. Royal commentators across networks dissected the move. Some praised William's leadership, calling it a bold step toward professionalizing the monarchy and removing nepotism. Others questioned the timing. Was this a signal that Camilla's family had overstayed their welcome in royal affairs? Social media lit up even faster. The phrase, "Camilla's circle cut off," trended for days. Memes popped up showing William with scissors, trimming the Queen's guest list. Some posts were sympathetic toward Annabelle Elliott, noting her decades of service, but many more applauded the move as a long-overdue correction. And yet, the reactions weren't purely surface level. Beneath the jokes and headlines was a deeper question. What does this say about the monarchy now? For the public, William's decision struck a chord. In an age of transparency and accountability, this looked like real reform, a clear break from the old way of doing things. For years, many had quietly resented how royal relatives, particularly those not in direct service, seemed to enjoy roles, access, and taxpayer-funded privileges. Now it seemed someone was finally putting a stop to it. Camilla, however, wasn't receiving the same applause. Her image, already complicated in the public eye due to her past with Princess Diana, took a hit. Commentators noted that while Camilla had worked hard to rehabilitate her reputation, this event made her look entitled, or worse, out of step with the modern royal family. The optics were brutal. A queen consort watching her sister get removed, while the public celebrated. In the midst of it all, the palace maintained its standard silence. No statements, no clarifications, just one quiet line repeated behind the scenes. "It's not personal. It's policy." But no one was fooled. The symbolism was loud and clear. William wasn't just managing estates, he was redefining royal power. And as Camilla watched the headlines swirl, one thing became clear. The public wasn't just supporting William's decision, they were cheering him on. What's at stake for Camilla? For Queen Camilla, this wasn't just a personal blow, it was a warning shot. Her family's access to royal estates, roles, and quiet privileges had become part of her influence. Over the years, they weren't just relatives, they were her trusted network, her support system within a royal structure that had never fully embraced her. And now, that network was being dismantled. Annabel Elliot was more than a sister. She was Camilla's closest confidant, a constant presence since the early days of Charles's reign. Removing her from the duchy's payroll didn't just erase a job title. It stripped away a piece of Camilla's foundation inside the firm. Behind palace walls, Camilla now faces a crossroads. Does she challenge this decision? Try to restore her sister's standing, risking a direct clash with Prince William? Or does she accept the cut, quietly, bitterly, and retreat from the space she once thought secure? Either choice comes at a cost. To push back would violate the royal code, no internal disputes in public. But staying silent reinforces the perception that her era is closing, that her influence is no longer protected, even as queen consort. It's a humiliating position for someone who worked tirelessly to be seen not just as Charles's partner, but as a legitimate power in her own right. There's also the emotional toll. Camilla spent decades building a place in the royal family, years of criticism, comparison, and public distrust. She endured it all. But now, just when she'd seemingly secured her seat at the table, she's watching that seat shrink. The removal of her sister wasn't just administrative. It was a message that personal ties won't shape the next royal chapter. Then there's the future. Camilla once envisioned herself as more than just queen in title. She had hoped to leave a legacy, one that included her values, her family, her mark on the monarchy. But now, that vision is clouded. William's bold reform suggests a monarchy moving forward without the need or the space for Camilla's extended influence. Her next moves will matter. If she fades quietly, the public may forget. But if she resists, that could fracture already delicate royal dynamics. One insider said it best, "She may wear the crown, but it's William who's steering the kingdom." And now Camilla must decide. Does she fight to protect her family's place? Or accept that her chapter is closing faster than she ever imagined? What William is saying through action. Prince William didn't need a press release. His message was clear the moment Annabel Elliot's name disappeared from the Duchy of Cornwall payroll. In royal life, power is rarely announced. It's exercised. And with this single stroke, William showed the world that he's no longer the future. He's the present. This wasn't a personal vendetta. This was a structural reset. By removing Camilla's sister, William drew a hard boundary. Royal estates are no longer family playgrounds. Nepotism, even in its quietest forms, would no longer be protected by tradition. William's vision for the duchy is modern, streamlined, and merit-based. And that vision doesn't include inherited perks for in-laws. This wasn't just about Elliot. It was about setting precedent. Other extended family members across the royal institution now see the writing on the wall. Paid roles, ceremonial posts, and honorary consultancies, all of it is subject to scrutiny. The old days of "you're related so you're hired" are ending. William is shifting the monarchy into a new mode: accountability over entitlement. It also sends a very loud, very intentional message to Queen Camilla. The royal balance of power is no longer built around loyalty to the past. It's about preparing for the future. And that future doesn't guarantee her family continued access. Insiders say William made the move without hesitation. He respects Camilla, but he won't bend to keep her family embedded in the system. His priorities lie elsewhere, with the public, with transparency, and with restoring royal credibility in a time when trust is fragile. Symbolically, this action reaffirms William's role as a reformer. Much like his mother, Princess Diana, he is showing the public that he isn't afraid to challenge outdated norms, even when it risks upsetting the palace status quo. One courtier described it this way: "This was William's first real test of authority, and he passed it with silence." Camilla now understands that her past influence has limits. Even her crown cannot shield her circle from scrutiny. Because William's actions speak for themselves. The monarchy is evolving, and anyone not ready to evolve with it will be left behind. This move wasn't loud, but it was final, and it raises a chilling question inside royal halls. Who's next? The wider royal implications. What Prince William just did doesn't stay in a single estate ledger. It sends ripples across every corner of the royal household. The royal family is more than a bloodline. It's an institution built on power, tradition, and quiet hierarchies. And within that world, who controls the estates controls the influence. So when William removed Queen Camilla's sister from the duchy payroll, it wasn't just an administrative change, it was a political statement. In one swift move, William rewrote the rules of engagement for everyone else orbiting the crown. Extended family members, the cousins, uncles, in-laws, and trusted old friends are suddenly on notice. Those unofficial roles, quiet retainers, ceremonial jobs that slipped through the cracks, all of them are now under review. The comfort of old royal favor is gone. What matters now is merit, purpose, and optics. Camilla's family being sidelined marks the first major rollback of inherited privilege under William's estate leadership. And that precedent shifts the entire royal power map. Future consorts and their families are watching closely. The message is clear. Marrying into the monarchy doesn't guarantee long-term placement. Titles might be shared. But control? That depends on the next in line. Even Princess Catherine, William's own wife, reportedly understands the weight of this decision. While she is publicly poised and supportive, insiders say she's aware this is more than just a family matter. It's a test of the crown's direction. She's preparing to lead alongside a husband who is ready to trim tradition to save the monarchy. And for the palace staff, courtiers, and senior officials, this marks a shift in how business is done. There's a new chain of command now, one less interested in preserving relationships and more focused on public trust. Some are uneasy. Not everyone inside the palace wants reform, but many, especially those close to William, believe it's necessary. They see this as the royal family's chance to modernize without collapsing. Camilla, once seen as a solidifying force behind Charles, now finds herself in a shrinking space. Her influence may still carry weight with her husband, but William has made it clear the real future of the monarchy will not be shaped by yesterday's alliances. And the public? They're watching this play out with fascination. For decades, the royal family has walked a fine line between grandeur and controversy. But now, with William pulling back the curtain and cutting out the excess, he's gaining credibility. The monarchy isn't just surviving scandal anymore, it's starting to clean house. And that leads to one final, burning question. What will Camilla do now? What happens next? Will Camilla fight back? In every royal shift, there's the aftermath and the response. The question now echoing through palace halls isn't just about Annabel Elliott's removal. It's about how Queen Camilla will react. Will she let this pass as a quiet defeat, or fight to reclaim ground? Those closest to her know she's not one to show emotion publicly. But behind the scenes, Camilla is fierce, calculating, and deeply loyal to her family. And this wasn't just a minor cut, it was a strike to her inner circle. Option 1: private negotiation. Camilla could quietly approach King Charles III, press for a compromise, or push for Annabel to be offered another ceremonial role. Not a return to full duty, but a symbolic gesture to restore dignity. Option 2: silence. Accept the loss, maintain the image of unity, and find other areas, like charities or public projects, where her influence can remain untouched. This is the safer route. But to Camilla, it may feel like surrender. Option 3: strategic retaliation. Not through drama, but through reshaping alliances inside the palace. Camilla still holds sway with senior courtiers loyal to her and Charles. She could use this moment to reassert her position in more subtle ways, placing her own supporters into visible roles, backing causes where her legacy is separate from William's authority. But here's the truth. William holds the power now. He controls the duchy. He's shaping the narrative. And with the public increasingly on his side, Camilla knows she's playing defense. King Charles may try to mediate. He has always valued unity, especially with his wife. But even he must acknowledge that William's choices are resonating far beyond palace gates. The press, the public, even Parliament see these reforms as a breath of fresh air. So where does this leave Camilla? Her influence may now have to shift from estates to optics, focusing on royal visits, public speeches, and charitable leadership. She may lean into legacy building, attempting to define her reign by grace, not power. But internally, the blow stings. She built a world within the monarchy, and now that world is being edited out of the next chapter. One royal insider summed it up perfectly. Camilla rose through the side door, but William just locked it behind her. And so the real tension begins. Will Camilla reclaim her ground? Or will William's quiet revolution leave her behind? A queen consort in title, but with no real kingdom left to shape. With Camilla sidelined and William rising, one question remains. Has the new king-in-waiting just redrawn the royal lines forever?